My family taught me to stay away from the Jeong clan. But fate had other plans. I fell under the power of the very man whose name I was taught to fear. And now, the most important question is, who among us is the true prisoner of this situation? My name is Hyun, and once, I was the brightest star of our great family. That's right, the light of the Choi family, that's what relatives, friends, and even business partners used to call me. But now, hardly anyone dares speak my name aloud. It drifts and whispers through the far corners of the mansion I once called home, and echoes faintly in the alleyways of Gangnam, where I rarely dare to set foot anymore. Time seemed to freeze at the moment I made my fatal mistake. Even now, when I close my eyes, I hear my father's verdict, his cold, restrained voice, heavy with disappointment and bitterness. He didn't shout no. For him, worse than anger was disillusionment. And that hurt more than anything, knowing I was no longer the daughter he could be proud of. My entire childhood and youth revolved around one idea: I had to meet his expectations. At any cost. Now I live in a small apartment on the edge of the city, like an exile. Technically, I haven't been cut off from the family. I still remain under the protection of their name, because, no matter what, I am still a Choi. But in reality, I exist on the margins, in the shadows of their world. Choi Yun-a, the former perfect daughter. All I have left are echoes of my former luxury. Expensive coats in the closet which I'm afraid to wear in public in case someone recognizes me, jewelry lying untouched in a box long devoid of joy, and memories of the days when everything seemed perfect. I miss my father, even though I still harbor resentment for how he treated me. I miss my mother. She died when I was just a child, and only my sister was ever truly close to me. Choi Ari was born when I was 7. I feel like I remember her birth with crystal clarity. I held her tiny hand in mine and swore I'd be the best sister in the world, that I'd protect her and lead her forward. Maybe I'm still clinging to that vow, even though we've grown nearly estranged. My mistake, as the family calls it, was that I failed to carry out a critical task for my father and couldn't remain cold-blooded at the right moment. Years later, looking back, I realize, in a criminal world where there is no room for weakness or compassion, showing emotion is seen as betrayal. But at the time, I couldn't act any differently. The sacrifice I made became my personal point of no return. Now it's winter outside. Seoul is cold and dim, especially at night. Snow blankets the rooftops as if trying to hide the city's dark deeds beneath a clean sheet. But I know the truth: no snow can cover up the trail of blood and betrayal. Sometimes I think Gangnam is steeped in secrets buried behind the high walls of lavish mansions. Behind one such wall lives my father, and behind another, the Jeong family, our longtime enemies. That evening, the last time I stepped across the threshold of my family estate, I had no idea I was becoming the piece everyone was so desperate to remove from the board. My father told me to just disappear for a while, let everyone forget about me. He said that maybe, in a few years, I could come back. But I don't believe in maybes, especially not after all this time. My memories of that day are like frames from an old black and white film. My father standing by the window in his study, snow falling behind him. He looks at me, and it feels like winter outside is endless. I ask for forgiveness, and all he says is a quiet, "Go." That was the moment I lost the right to be the light of the Choi family. Now, I'm making tea in the tiny kitchen of my apartment. I'm not in the mood for a real dinner, and I don't have the money for luxury. The shelves hold only the bare essentials. Sometimes, Ari sends me money in secret. I'm sure our father doesn't know, or she'd already have faced his wrath. But I can't bring myself to truly spend it. My conscience won't let me, and I don't want to attract attention. I wrap my hands around the warm mug and glance at my phone. Dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers, but I've learned to recognize when someone from the family is trying to reach me. Deep down, I hope that one day my sister will call just to say, "I miss you. Come home." But she never does. Still, I've heard rumors, whispers pass through cafes and bars filled with people from the underworld. Something's happening in the family. I take my first sip of tea when the phone vibrates again. Another unknown number. Just a string of unfamiliar digits, but my chest tightens, I feel it in my gut. This isn't random. I move my hand away from the cup, a shiver crawling down my skin. Fear? No, premonition. Hello? My voice comes out softer than I expected. Hyun, a voice whispers on the other end. I recognize Ari immediately, even though she speaks in a hush, like someone might overhear her. I can't talk long, but please, come. I need you. Ari? My heart pounds. What's wrong? I'll explain later. Just come to our old park tomorrow, remember the one with the swings? Noon. I'll be waiting. The line cuts off. I sit there in the cold kitchen, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Why does she need me? Why now? And above all, could this be dangerous for both of us? But the thought that she might be in trouble won't let me stay away. Somewhere inside, I'm still that big sister, ready to protect her no matter the cost. I may no longer be the light of the Choi family, but maybe, just maybe, I can still shine a little light for Ari. The next day I wake up before dawn. Just think how much my life has changed. I used to drive an expensive car, wear branded clothes, and now I struggle to choose what to wear so as not to attract unnecessary attention. I try to look simple, a dark wool coat, comfortable flat boots, a black knitted hat. The morning in Seoul is frosty, the wind cuts to the bone, but I've already grown used to the cold, especially the cold inside me. My path leads to a small park where I used to walk with Ari as a child. There really were swings there, they creaked so loudly that my father would sometimes frown and order the bodyguards to oil them. But for some reason, the swings kept creaking, as if yielding to the roar of the wind. I arrive earlier than the appointed time and notice that there is almost no one in the park. Only an old lady who came out for some fresh air, and a young guy who apparently was just passing by. I settle on a bench, gazing at the sparse trees whose branches are covered with remnants of snow. In my head, I run through all possible scenarios. What if father decided to call me back and punish me? Or something happened to Ari, and she decided to ask me for help? When after a few minutes I see my sister, my heart tightens. Ari has changed a lot. Now she is no longer the girl who used to run down the hallways of our mansion, laughing and holding my hand. She wears an elegant dark blue coat, her long hair braided neatly, her gaze serious. But I see anxiety on her face. She walks towards me quickly, and I rise to meet her. We look at each other with silent understanding. Time and circumstances have changed us. Suddenly Ari hugs me as if we were still little girls, and involuntarily I feel a lump in my throat. Sis, she whispers, pressing close to me. Ari, what's going on? I run my hand through her hair, as if trying to restore a sense of safety for both of us. She suddenly pulls away and looks at me with a long gaze. I've been proposed to. I blink, not immediately grasping the meaning of her words. Proposed? What kind of proposal could it be? Since we are talking about family, my mind instantly goes to a criminal undertone. Maybe someone offered her a deal or something else. But she clarifies, I was proposed to, marriage, Hyun, by Jeong Hyun. If I hadn't held myself back at that moment, I probably would have gasped out loud in surprise. Jeong Hyun is the head of the Jeong clan, a name known even to those far removed from our world. The Jeong family and the Choi family are longtime enemies, rivals, opponents. When I was growing up, father constantly repeated, if you ever see anyone from the Jeong clan, turn around and leave. Don't even think about dealing with them. But how is this possible? I asked barely audibly. Your engagement. Is this father's decision? Ari nods and swallows as if trying to hold back tears. Our father and Jeong Hyun decided to make peace. An official truce between the families through marriage. I cannot disobey. I feel a wave of protest rising within me. Even though we live in a world where such deals seem normal, this is my little sister. Could she really want to marry someone she might not even love? Did you? Did you agree? I stare at her face, trying to understand what she feels. I didn't decide. It doesn't matter anymore. Who asks for my opinion? She smiles bitterly. Dad says it's for the family. That it's my duty. I close my eyes for a second, trying to compose myself. So it's exactly as I feared. Ari is going to be used as a pawn in this tangled game of the powerful. Then why do they need me? I ask calmly, though inside I'm boiling. Ari leads me away from the main path, and we sit on the very bench where I had been waiting for her. A light frosty wind burns my cheeks, and I notice her hands trembling. Just like when we were children, I cover her hands with mine, trying to warm them. I'm scared, Hyun, she finally admits. I know the Jeong family is dangerous. They are known for their cruelty and for never forgiving mistakes. And do Hyun. She falls silent and lowers her eyes. They say he's cold, never shows mercy. He's frightening. Father assures me the marriage is for the greater good, but can this really be good? I squeeze her hands tighter. Inside me, anger towards Father awakens. Once again, he decides the fate of his children, not thinking that each of us has feelings and desires. But I can't unleash all my anger on Ari now. She is already scared. Ari, I begin quietly, you asked me to come. How can I help you? She looks at me with hope, and confusion is clear in her eyes. I want you to be with me on the day of the meeting. By the end of the week, there will be an official presentation of me to the Jeong clan, a dinner where both families will confirm their intentions. I can't go through this alone. You're the one who understands best how to behave in such situations. She squeezes my hands. Please, be there. My heart tightens even more. If I return to Father's sight, to his home, it automatically exposes me to judgment, maybe even real danger. I'm an outcast, and my appearance could be seen by someone as a challenge or another mistake that might be harshly punished. But I cannot abandon my sister in such a situation. All right, I exhale. I will do everything I can. Ari sobs and hugs me again, and holding her close, I look at the white snow covering the paths. We sit like that for a couple of minutes, then she suddenly straightens up as if remembering something important. There's one more thing, Hyun. Her voice lowers. I heard that some of ours don't want this alliance. And maybe something bad is being prepared. Maybe an assassination, maybe sabotage. But something is coming. And I'm afraid I'll get caught in the bloody feud they talk about behind the scenes. Do you think Father doesn't control this? I'm not sure. Father is too focused on his deal with Du Hyun. But inside the family, there are those who hate the Jeong clan so much that they want no peace. I realize all this is a huge tangle of intrigues and dangers. My sister is standing at the center of the storm, and if I don't intervene, she might be swept away without a trace. We talk a little more about the details of the upcoming dinner and agree on how I will show up and under what pretext. Ari leaves first to avoid attracting attention. I stay in the park for a few more minutes, looking at the very creaking swing mechanism that slowly rocks in the wind, realizing that I can no longer return to my former peaceful life. The way to my father's mansion feels endlessly long. I decide not to walk. I take a taxi and ask to be dropped off a block away from the place. I don't want to arrive right at the gates. Who knows who might notice me and what conclusions they might draw. Walking down these familiar streets feels strange. Every detail stirs memories. There's that street food stall where I used to run to buy fried pies with Ari. There's the clothing store where I bought my first designer blouse. It feels like a whole lifetime has passed since then. People rush by, unaware of the stories worthy of a crime drama unfolding behind the high walls of the mansions. The Choi family mansion is still imposing, tall fence, wrought iron gates, guards at the entrance. I approach the gates, and one of the guards seems to recognize me. He looks at me tensely but doesn't dare say anything. Finally, I step forward. I need to see my father, I say. He furrows his brow and picks up his radio. She's here. Yes, herself. What are your orders? I wait for several agonizing seconds. My heart beats so hard I'm afraid the guard will hear it pounding. 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then a quiet hiss from the radio, and he turns back to me. Come in. I don't yet know what I will hear from my father, but I feel I cannot refuse. I have to help Ari. As the gates close behind me, 2 men come out to meet me. I recognize them, longtime allies of my father. One, Mr. Park, once taught me how to shoot a pistol and coached me on the right reaction to threats. The other, Mr. Jeong, is more of a diplomat than a fighter and handled organizing peaceful negotiations. Both look at me with cold curiosity, but they neither shout nor chase me away. Yena, Park says briefly. Mr. Choi is waiting for you in his office. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat, and follow them along the long path to the house. Everything inside me screams, run. But I force myself to move forward. For Ari. Inside the mansion, it's a bit warmer than outside, but I still shiver. We climb the stairs to the second floor where my father's office is. The door is closed. Park knocks, hears permission to enter, and gestures for me to go in first. My father sits behind the same desk I last saw when he sentenced me to exile. His gaze is cold, and the tension hangs thick in the air. Why have you come? He asks without greeting. Father, I bow respectfully, as my mother once taught me. I have come to support Ari in her engagement. He presses his lips into a thin line. A shadow of dislike appears in his eyes, but perhaps also a hint of regret. I can't tell which feeling dominates. Support Ari? He repeats. Is that your wish or hers? It's ours, together. I try to meet his eyes directly, though I'm trembling inside. He looks away for a moment. Part of me waits for him to order the guards to throw me out. But instead, he says, do what you want, but remember, no scenes. You have no right to interfere with my decisions. If you see your visit might ruin everything, leave quietly. Understood? It sounds almost like permission to stay. And I intend to use it. Understood, I reply evenly. Father signals Park and Huang to leave, and they step out, leaving us alone. The silence presses on me, and I don't know what to say. I want to ask, why did you never try to take me back? Or don't you miss me even a little? But I know those questions would only irritate him. Maybe someday I will ask them, but not now. He rises from his chair, walks around the desk, and stands about a meter in front of me. I bow again, not because I have to, but to show that I respect his status, no matter what. There's a war, my father suddenly says. Or rather, it hasn't started yet, but everyone is preparing. If something goes wrong with this marriage, I am ready for the consequences. Why Ari? I ask, a little louder than I intended. She's so innocent. She's not ready for this at all. Ari is my daughter. And she must fulfill her duty like any family member. He looks at me, and in his gaze, I see endless cold resolve. I'm giving you a chance to help her get through this, but remember, if your actions break our agreement with the Jeong clan, we will both lose far more than our reputation. I snap, do you think I came here to ruin everything? I think you've already let me down once. His voice is even, not raised, but steel can be felt in it. And I don't want to repeat. Those words hurt me deeper than I want to show. But I swallow hard. If I argue now, I'll get nowhere. I bow my head and take a deep breath. I just want to be near my sister. To help her not go crazy with fear of the future. He doesn't reply, only nods, then walks around the desk and returns to his seat. Then he presses a button on his phone. Park, take her to the guest rooms. Let her stay there for now. A short yes, sir, comes through, and my father orders me to leave. Already at the door, I stop and glance back over my shoulder. I want to say I missed the house, missed him, but I realize he doesn't care right now. I won't get any warm words or a smile in return. So I leave silently. Park leads me to the third floor, where important guests used to be housed. I've never stayed in those rooms before, this was my home once. Bitter irony. The room is spacious, overlooking the garden. A huge bed, luxurious furniture. Everything screams wealth and status, but I feel no joy. Rather, a strange, sticky melancholy overwhelms me. If you need anything, let us know, Park says shortly and closes the door behind me. I am alone. My chest feels like it will burst from the desire to break out of this gilded cage and run away, but I promised Ari. According to her, the dinner will be held the day after tomorrow, and preparations are in full swing. Somewhere downstairs, dozens of people are probably preparing everything for the Jeong clan's reception. As soon as I settle by the window, there's a knock on the door. I open it and see Choi Ari. She slips inside quickly, and for a moment we freeze, looking at each other. "Thank you for coming," she says quietly, lowering her eyes. "Tell me the details about what to expect at the dinner." I try to speak calmly, like an older sister taking control of the situation. Ari explains, the dinner will have official representatives of the Jeong clan, Jeong Do-hyun himself and his close associates, as well as father with his advisors and some members of the Choi family. Formally, it's an evening to present the bride and conclude future agreements. There will be a public gift exchange ceremony, where both sides will show the seriousness of their intentions. I listen as Ari goes over every detail and feel how terrified she is, not only of the potentially cruel future husband but of the entire staged event. If anything goes wrong, she'll be blamed for the failure. "You'll be there, right?" she asks when she finishes speaking. "I'll feel calmer if I see your face in the room." I put my hand on her shoulder. "Of course, I will. I promise to help you, and I will keep my word." She smiles faintly, and that smile reminds me of our childhood, when we played together, happy with simple things. How I wish we could go back to that time. But reality is that we're caught in a game where we're not players but pawns. "Try to rest," I say to my sister and hug her. "Tomorrow will bring a lot of trouble." She nods, and I see fear flash in her eyes about the coming day. She leaves, and I stay in this luxurious room, where nothing reminds me of my past life except the same stale loneliness I felt when father banished me. The next day, the mansion is abuzz with activity. Servants carry decorations, flowers, set tables. I wake up to the noise and realize I have little time before evening. I need to prepare mentally and physically. I decide to leave the room and look around, though I know I risk running into those who are unlikely to welcome me. But I can't stay locked up. Descending the stairs, I encounter several familiar faces from the past. They look at me with curiosity, some with contempt, some with sympathy. I avoid conversations, moving quietly along the walls to not draw attention. Father is busy at the time I hear him giving orders, making calls, discussing dinner details. Ari passes by somewhere, holding fabric for a dress. I decide not to interfere and go to the courtyard where Ari and I played as children. Winter spares soul from snowstorms, but today is clear though cold. I freeze by a small fountain, long since turned off, and remember how Ari and I used to toss coins in for luck. What would I wish for now? I think. To return to those times? Or to find a present without fear and pain? I don't finish the thought when I hear footsteps behind me. I turn and see him. A tall man in an expensive black coat, cold dark eyes, a short haircut emphasizing his sharp features. His gaze pierces me like an X-ray, and the air suddenly feels hard to breathe. I immediately know, this is Jeong Do-hyun, head of the criminal clan, my sister's fiancé. I've seen his photo briefly, but in person, he seems even more intimidating. He walks slowly, but there's a predatory confidence in his stride. Two subordinates follow him, equally cold faces. For a moment, I want to retreat, but it's too late. Our eyes have already met. As someone familiar would say, it's begun. Hyun stops a few steps away from me. I notice a slight smirk on his lips, as if he finds me amusing. Maybe it's my eyes widened in surprise or the slight tremble in my hands that give me away. You're not the one who should be near me, he says quietly, but his voice is sharp as a gunshot. I lift my chin, trying not to show fear. You're not the one I want to see near my sister, I retort, surprised by my own boldness. He narrows his eyes. His companions exchange quick glances, probably ready to intervene if I say something even more daring. But Hyun doesn't seem in a hurry to show aggression. On the contrary, I notice a sort of curiosity in his gaze. So your sister is Ari, he stretches the words, as if testing me. The sister of the missing princess of the Choi family. I feel my insides tighten. He knows who I am. Of course he does. His informants must have reported that Choi Yuna has returned under her father's roof. But his brazen manner shows he doesn't care about my past reputation. My name is Choi Yuna, I say, trying to keep my tone steady. I am indeed Ari's sister. He tilts his head slightly, as if making a polite bow, but there's more irony than respect in his smirk. Hyun. I suppose introductions aren't necessary. My gaze scans his figure. He looks like the embodiment of danger. Dark hair, sharp facial features, cold eyes, several tattoos peeking from beneath his shirt. If it weren't for my disgust at what he is, I might have noticed his attractiveness. But I know how deadly his charm can be. Behind that exterior lies a ruthless clan leader who will stop at nothing. Let me through, he says calmly, gesturing toward the door into the house. I need to find your father. I step aside slightly, but before he takes a step, I add, remember this, if you so much as touch Ari. You'll kill me? He finishes with a crooked smile. Or will your nerves give out and you'll run away, like you once did? I bite my lip. His words sting, and I hate that he so easily hit my most painful spot, my mistake, my exile, everything tied to my past. Watch your words, I throw back, feeling anger boil inside me. He says nothing, just brushes past me, his shoulder lightly grazing mine. I catch his scent, a mix of expensive cologne and something dangerously alluring, and a strange excitement grips me. Excitement mixed with disgust. When he disappears through the door, I stand by the fountain, trying to calm my wildly beating heart. What was that? Never before have I felt such a mix of anger, fear, and some inexplicable interest. I recall his words, his gaze, and a shiver runs through me. This is bad, I think. He's already trying to get inside my head. Alas, in the criminal world, people like Hyun always knew how to play with emotions. And I, stripped of status and recent experience, could easily become his victim. I run my hand along the cold edge of the fountain, involuntarily recalling the blood threat my sister had sensed. If a war is truly coming between our families, Hyun might become the force that destroys us without mercy. But what if he's dangerous not only to the Choi family but also to me personally? It's all for Ari, I try to remind myself. Remember why you came back. By evening, the mansion fills with guests. A long table is decorated with floral arrangements, fine dishes set, chefs and waiters bustling about. I only manage a brief exchange with Ari, who in her luxurious outfit looks more like a doll in our father's hands than a happy bride. Her eyes are tense, and I try to calm her with a short phrase, everything will be fine. I put on a black elegant dress, the only piece from my old wardrobe I brought with me. It flatters my figure but isn't flashy. I tie my hair into a simple bun, exposing my neck. I want to look dignified but not draw attention. In the hall sit members of the Choi and Jeong clans. Guests exchange cold pleasantries. Father sits at the head of the table, a vacant seat beside him, presumably for Hyun, the guest of honor. Ari is nearby, surrounded by several women from the family who adjust something on her, as if she really is just the ornament of the evening. I take a seat not in the front row, but where I can see Ari and offer her some silent support. When the noise subsides a bit, he appears at the door with Jeong Hyun. Now without his coat, dressed in a strict black suit, perfectly fitting his toned body. His cold gaze scans the guests and pauses briefly when it meets mine. I quickly look away, pretending I'm not affected, though my heart skips again. Do Hyun sits beside father. A second later, his right hand appears, a short man peeking from behind his boss's shoulder, along with a couple of other subordinates. A tense dialogue begins at the table, polite remarks sound almost like mutual threats. I notice father and Do Hyun exchanging looks filled with sparks of distrust. The gift exchange ceremony is quick. Ari presents Do Hyun with a small casket containing a piece of jewelry carved from rare jade, a Choi family heirloom, as far as I know. Do Hyun, in turn, gives her a set of antique jewelry passed down in his family. Both try to appear calm, but I see Ari's hands tremble as she offers the casket. Do Hyun notices and, with a brief smirk, accepts the gift, then covers her hand with his palm for a moment. Ari pales, and I clench my fists, nearly jumping from my seat. Waiters serve the dishes, and the dinner continues in a tense atmosphere. Guests exchange glances and whisper about what's happening. I eat with effort, trying not to take my eyes off my sister, just in case she needs my support. Soon, father rises from his seat and delivers a short speech about how this alliance should put an end to the long-standing feud. The words sound beautiful, but no one truly believes it will be that simple. Everyone expects the alliance to be fragile, and that blood may still be shed. After the official part, the guests are given time for informal mingling. I see Do Hyun, as befits a groom, offer his hand to Ari, and she, lowering her eyes, takes his arm and steps aside. I watch them talking. I can only guess how cold and impenetrable he must be. I decide not to interfere but keep an eye on them as I move around the table. I feel sideways glances from relatives. Some are clearly glad I've returned, perhaps out of nostalgia, but most feel nothing but suspicion. At one point, I slip into the adjoining room to catch my breath, a small hall overlooking the inner courtyard. By the window stands a table with drinks. I pour myself some juice, unwilling to drink alcohol. I need to keep a clear head. Maybe you should have something stronger for courage? A low voice says behind me, and the same feeling I had by the fountain washes over me. I turn around. There's Do Hyun, with a slight half-smile, if you can call it that. His eyes look straight into mine, seemingly trying to penetrate my defenses. I prefer to stay sober when surrounded by too many unpleasant personalities, I reply. Brave, he says, standing close beside me, so close I can almost feel his presence physically. But don't you relax when you're with family? I struggle to hold back a sharp retort. He's clearly mocking me, knowing well my position. You're supposed to be beside your bride, I remind him, looking at him from under my brows. I will be, he answers, studying my face intently. But aren't you curious to know what kind of man your sister has to deal with? I clench my teeth. Of course I'm curious. But I'm afraid the answer will be too painful. I already know everything I need to. You're ruthless, cruel, and willing to trample over others for your own gain. He raises his eyebrows slightly. Harsh, but partly true, he says, taking a glass of whiskey from the table and sipping it. We live in a world where cruelty is necessary. You think your father is better? I know my father is far from an angel, I say quietly. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't want Ari to have a husband who looks at her like a pawn on a chessboard. He looks away for a moment, then back at me. So you really do care about your sister? I heard you had the chance to leave and live your own life, but you came back for her. Impressive. That's not impressive, I retort. It's natural for those who still have a heart. Something strange, almost imperceptible, flickers in his eyes. Maybe, he says. Just remember, my feelings are my weakness, and weaknesses usually come at a high price in our world. He takes another sip of whiskey, and I notice he doesn't take his eyes off me, as if eager to see confirmation of his words and my reaction. Tension grows inside me. I hate him for planning to use my sister in a deal, but I can't deny that his charisma literally presses down on me. I turn to the window, trying to distance myself, but he suddenly moves closer. My pulse quickens, and I pretend to admire the view of the courtyard. Through the glass, I see the very fountain where we first met. "Don't come so close," I say without turning around. "Why?" His voice is mocking. "Afraid of me?" "I'm afraid I'll get dirty," I reply sharply. He laughs quietly, sounding like the calm before a storm. Then I hear him place the glass on the table. "All right. I won't bother you. But soon I'll have one question for you, Hyun," he says, and now there's a strange softness in his voice. "Make sure you have the right answer." With that, he leaves, leaving me standing by the window, clutching the glass of juice that suddenly feels dry in my throat. What question does he have for me? And why do I feel we're already playing some dangerous game, even though I'm trying my hardest to avoid it? I take a small sip, feeling the juice tasteless. Everything at this dinner is bland and fake. Outside the door, there's merriment, laughter, toasts, but here, in the shadows, a cold chess game unfolds, and I'm so afraid of making the wrong move. The dinner ended well past midnight. Most guests have left, the Jeong clan returned to their territory, and father and his people are busy counting the dividends of the evening. Who made deals? What words were said between the lines? Exhausted by the tension, I returned to my guest room, but sleep wouldn't come. For an hour or two, I stared out the window at the cold moonlight path lying on the snowy courtyard. Somewhere below, I heard guards' footsteps and the occasional sound of departing cars. Finally, I decided to try to sleep and changed into simple home clothes, a black tank top and sweatpants. But as soon as I lay down, a dull knock sounded at the door. My heart skipped a beat. At this hour, no one should be disturbing me, unless something happened to Ari. I jumped up and quickly went to the door. I opened the door and saw Park. His face was guarded. "Sorry to bother you, but your sister, she's not feeling well. She asked me to get you." "Where is she?" I grabbed the sweater thrown over a chair and put it on. "In her room. She said you should come alone." I nodded and rushed down the corridor. Ari's room was at the far end of the hall, but I got there in a minute. I knocked, and the door opened almost immediately. I stepped inside. Ari really did look distressed, wearing a long nightgown, her eyes red. As soon as I crossed the threshold, she closed the door and threw herself into my arms. "Hyun, she sobbed. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I ran my hand through her hair, trying to calm her. "Yes, it's just I can't stop thinking about what awaits me." She sat on the edge of the bed, and I sat beside her. "Today do Hyun. He didn't say anything comforting. Just the usual phrases. I understand that for him this marriage is just a deal." I squeezed her shoulders. "Ari, I know you're scared, but try not to lose heart. Maybe, with time, it won't be as bad as you imagine." She lifted her tearful eyes to me. "You don't believe that, do you?" I exhaled. "No, I don't. But I want you to find strength within yourself. Who knows, maybe he—" I tried to find the words. "Maybe he won't be such a monster after all." Ari laughed sadly. "You saw him. There's coldness in his eyes. And when he touched my hand, I felt like I was touched by steel." I hugged her tighter. My sister was so vulnerable it twisted something inside me. I wanted to storm off and run to father, screaming that he has no right to ruin Ari's life, but I knew it would do no good. "You know," Ari said softly, "if it weren't for you, I probably would have run away by now." "And where would you run to?" I asked gently. "I don't know. But somewhere without all these laws, without this hatred." She hugged herself. "I don't want to live in a world where I'm someone's pawn." "All right," I finally said. For now, the main thing is you need to rest. Tomorrow is a new day, and maybe everything will seem less hopeless. She pressed against me like a little girl, and I stroked her hair. Eventually, Ari fell asleep on my shoulder, and I carefully laid her down on the bed, covering her with a blanket. I sat there for a while, listening to her uneven breathing. My mind swirled with thoughts on how to help her. When I left her room, the corridor was almost empty. But my body sensed someone's presence, and I froze, feeling an ominous shiver. I looked around and noticed a silhouette in the far corner, a person standing in the dim light, only the outline visible. My heart skipped a beat. "Who's there?" I asked, trying to sound confident though my insides were trembling. One step forward, and out of the shadows came Hyun. I almost screamed. His eyes sparkled even in the faint light of the night corridor. "What are you doing here?" I asked tensely. "I came to talk to the bride in an informal setting." He took a step toward me, and it felt like the air thickened. "But then I saw you go into her room and decided not to interfere. You shouldn't come here at this hour." My words sounded banal. I didn't know what else to say. He squinted. "Are you afraid your father would object? Or afraid someone might misunderstand?" Before I could answer, he moved closer. I stepped back, my back hitting the wall. My eyes were wide open. Did he really intend to do something to me here, in the middle of the night corridor? "Step away," I whispered, trying to look resolute. "Or what?" His voice lowered, and I felt my insides tighten. "I'll scream," I replied, realizing how pitiful that sounded. He didn't smile, but there was clear triumph in his gaze. He liked my vulnerability, he felt his power. "I just wanted to tell you something," he said, and suddenly his hand slammed against the wall next to my shoulder, blocking my retreat. "Remember, I promised to ask you a question." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "What question?" He leaned closer so I could feel his breath. My heart raced, and I cursed myself for not being able to control myself. "Why do you protect your sister so fiercely when you once failed to protect your own family?" His words dripped with venomous mockery. "Aren't you afraid of making the same mistake again?" Those words hit hard. I felt a surge of anger, embarrassment, and something else making my temples throb. I couldn't let him control me. "How dare you?" I hissed, forcing myself to keep my head held high. "I have my reasons." "It's none of your business." "But it's directly connected to me." He slightly withdrew his hand but didn't move away. "If you interfere, you'll face me, Hyun. Are you really ready for that?" I bit my lip. Suddenly, a desire flared inside me, not just to push him away but to hit, scream, break free from this captivity. But I knew he was stronger. "For Ari, I'll do anything," I said firmly. For a moment, something changed in Hyun's eyes. As if my determination impressed him. Or irritated him. Or both. "You're too stubborn," he whispered and stepped back. "And you're too arrogant," I breathed. A second later, he moved closer again, almost touching my forehead with his. I felt that strange tension tighten inside me. We stood like that, looking at each other. His lips were dangerously close, too close. Panic struck me as I realized part of me suddenly wanted to know what it felt like to feel his kiss. But common sense screams that this is madness. This is the enemy, a monster ready to destroy my sister's life. And yet I don't move, unable to take my eyes off his lips and eyes, from his formidable, captivating presence. "You don't belong next to me," he says almost inaudibly, again quoting that very phrase from our first meeting. "And you don't belong next to my sister," I reply, trying not to shout. Silence breaks when we hear footsteps at the end of the corridor. He recoils and, with what seems a careless gait, steps aside, throwing me a mocking glance as a farewell. I stand pressed to the wall, breathing heavily, adrenaline pounding wildly in my chest. Seeing a maid in the corridor, Hyun calmly nods to her and leaves. The maid casts a puzzled look at me, but I pretend everything is fine, though my mind is in chaos. Back in my room, I lock the door and collapse to the floor, feeling my legs give way. What is happening to me? Why am I reacting this way to him? This is pure madness. I should avoid this man. He is the embodiment of cold danger. I have no right to be tangled in my feelings, as they directly affect Ari's fate. But can I deceive myself? I felt his power, his will, and the moment he came close, something inside me shifted. As if all my fears and disgust mixed with a dark, inexplicable attraction. No, I tell myself, this must not happen. I won't let it become reality. Still, I don't close my eyes the rest of the night, recalling his quiet, almost whispering voice and the fire in his gaze. Several days pass. Ari increasingly asks me to accompany her during visits to the Jeong clan or discussions with their representatives. I notice Hyun clearly tries to keep his distance from me, but our glances still cross from time to time. And in those brief moments, I feel the storm of feelings rise inside me again. One morning, I get a message from Ari asking me to come to Hyun's house, where she's temporarily living, preparing for their future life together. I need to talk, she wrote. Father knows about this visit. Apparently, he decided I would be a good nanny for Ari, to make sure everything goes according to plan. I ride in a large black car provided to us. Father's gardener is driving, a bodyguard sits beside him. When we approach the massive gates of the Jeong residence, I feel uneasy. The high walls, the stern guards, all of it seems even more ominous than my family's mansion. They escort me inside, and I find myself in a spacious vestibule. The interior is modern, cold, almost sterile. No bright colors, everything in shades of gray and black. Ari meets me in the living room, and her appearance immediately worries me. She looks tired, with shadows under her eyes. Hyun. She approaches, takes my hand, and pulls me aside so the guards can't hear. Today they told me the wedding might happen as soon as next week. They say Hyun has urgent matters and wants to settle everything quickly. So soon? I catch my breath. Yes. I don't know what to do. She wraps her arms around herself. I don't think I can. I pull her close, trying to calm her, but I realize my words probably won't help. She really has no choice. At that moment, we hear the light tap of boots on the marble floor. Hyun enters the living room, dressed in a black suit with a tie, looking even more severe than usual. Behind him follows his right hand, a man named Sun, if I'm not mistaken. A sweet scene, Hyun says with a quiet smirk, glancing at us. May I join you? Ari pales and steps back, trying to compose herself. I squeeze her hand, silently saying, "It's okay, I'm here." We were discussing your upcoming wedding, I say, trying to keep calm in my voice. And? Any thoughts? He turns his gaze to Ari. I hope you haven't changed your mind? Ari is silent, eyes lowered. I feel her fear. I see you're playing the protector again. Hyun addresses me. Maybe we should talk alone? I tense up. I don't want to leave my sister alone, but arguing in front of her is also not an option. Ari nods, as if confirming I should go. All right, I sigh. Let's do that. We move to the adjacent room. It appears to be his study, a large wooden desk, expensive chairs, several dark-framed paintings on the walls. He gestures for me to sit in a chair while he walks around the desk and sits opposite me. You wanted to say something? He asks. I want to understand why the rush, I answer directly, meeting his gaze. The wedding is next week? Ari isn't mentally ready. He tightens his lips, irritation flashing in his eyes. In our world, there isn't always room for feelings, he says. There are agreements, deals. The sooner we finalize the marriage, the less risk our families will fall into open hostility again. Still, I grip the chair's armrests, trying not to show my nervousness. Do you even try to understand what Ari is going through? He looks at me without a trace of softness. Don't forget who I am. Why would I need to understand her feelings? This is not a romantic union, but a necessity. I want to call him a heartless monster, but I remember how, despite everything, he seemed interested in my emotions. Maybe it was just a game. Then why marry? I blurred out, surprised even myself. If this is just a deal to you, you could find another form of agreement. He raises an eyebrow and smirks. You do understand that in Korean criminal circles, marriage between heirs is an old, proven way to peace. And both families know it. I exhale, realizing arguing is pointless. Suddenly, Hyun stands and steps closer. I instinctively shrink into the chair, trying not to show fear. He rests his hand on the edge of the desk, leaning toward me. And what do you want, Hyun? He asks in an unexpectedly soft voice. Or is your only goal to protect your sister? Yes. Only that, I answer firmly. And for that, you're ready to oppose me if something goes wrong? He almost whispers, and a chill runs through me. Yes. He smiles at the corners of his lips. Then we'll have to find common ground. I don't understand what he means, but his next sentence stuns me. I want you to stay here for a few days. Until the wedding. Close to Ari, if you want. But effectively under my supervision. What? I jump up, and he steps back as well. Why do you want that? To make sure you don't cause any surprises, he says calmly, smiling slightly. And at the same time, help your sister settle in. That sounds like house arrest, I snap angrily. Call it what you want, he shrugs. But admit it, if you're here, it'll be easier for you to help Ari. Besides, I think your father will approve the idea. He is right. It's some twisted logic, but I understand that father will probably support the supervision over me. I won't share a room with Ari, I say, trying to set boundaries. Don't worry, they'll find a separate room for you, his eyes gleam. But be prepared that my rules apply here. I feel something tightening inside me. Staying here means being even closer to him, and that carries not only potential danger but also a strange attraction that I'm afraid of. In the end, after a brief pause, I agree because I have no other choice. I worry too much about Ari to refuse. And so it is that same evening. My things have been brought from my father's mansion. I've been given a spacious bedroom on the second floor of the residence. It's far less cozy than my previous home, but clearly furnished expensively and tastefully. The walls are gray-toned, a large bed with a black coverlet, windows with heavy curtains letting in minimal light. Ari is settled nearby but apparently resting after a hard day. I pace the room, trying to calm myself, then decide to take a shower to relieve some tension. Water runs down my skin. I close my eyes, recalling every tense conversation with Hyun. Why is he the one who stirs the most frightening feelings inside me? I hate what he could do to Ari, to my family, yet I can't forget how, in the mansion corridor, his proximity nearly drove me mad. I step out of the shower, wrap myself in a towel, and approach the mirror. A woman looks back at me, hair slightly tangled, skin flushed, eyes anxious. That's me, I think bitterly. When was the last time I saw that shining daughter in myself? While drying off, I hear no footsteps. Then suddenly I sense someone outside the door. I turn sharply and see it's ajar. Who's there? I call out, breath catching in surprise. Sorry, I hear a familiar voice. My heart seems to stop for a moment. Hyun. I knocked, but apparently you didn't hear. I clutch the towel tighter to my chest, shrinking inward. What the hell are you doing in my room? Wanted to talk, he replies, stepping inside, and for a moment I notice his gaze scanning my figure. There's something primitively masculine flickering in his eyes, and I burn with embarrassment. Leave, I say, trying not to meet his eyes. Or I'll scream. Quiet, Ari is already asleep, his voice lowers. I just wanted to tell you that tomorrow. We'll discuss it in the morning. Get out now. My whole body tenses. My heart pounds. He closes the door behind him. His lips press tight, but he doesn't leave. Why do you always threaten with a scream? Do you think anyone will hear? Or maybe you just like feeling danger. Stop, I whisper. It's not funny. I'm not laughing. He takes another half step forward, and I back away involuntarily until my back hits the cold wall. I freeze, clutching the towel, water droplets still running down my shoulders. His gaze burns into me to the bone, and I feel like I'm suffocating. Leave. I repeat, but my voice wavers. I won't touch you if you don't want me to, he suddenly says softly, and in his eyes appears that same tense desire I've already felt. But admit it, there's something between us pulling us together. No. I exhale, realizing I'm lying. The feeling inside me is too intense. I hate and simultaneously crave his touch. It's madness. He raises a hand, not touching me, but I almost physically feel the heat radiating from him. Say leave, and I will. The words get stuck in my throat. My mind screams, push him away. But my body freezes, unable to make a sound. In that moment he takes the last step and presses me against the wall with his body, his lips covering mine, burning with a kiss full of raw passion that makes me lose connection with reality. The towel slips slightly, and I feel his hand on my waist, then higher, gripping the back of my neck. My mind screams betrayal, this is the man who is my sister's fiancé. But my body reacts quickly, I respond to the kiss as if I've been thirsting for it for a long time. Lips and tongues intertwine, breath grows heavy, and I hardly notice the cold walls, only his warmth penetrating me. He strokes my wet skin, and I tremble at every touch. A flame seems to ignite between us, while somewhere deep in my consciousness I hear, stop. You can't. But my hands reach for his hair, then for the collar of his shirt. Everything happens so fast I don't have time to think about the consequences. He presses closer, kisses become more demanding. A quiet moan escapes my lips, and inside me a spark ignites that could burn me to ashes. Say it if you don't want this, he raspingly murmurs, breaking the kiss for a moment. I try to say we must stop, but only a moan comes out as he trails kisses along my neck. My arms hang down along his back. I feel the tense muscles beneath my palms. He runs his hand along my thigh, slow and careful, as if asking for consent. My mind fogs. I know we've gone too far, that it's unforgivable. But I cannot resist. Everything inside me begs for more. We can't. I manage, voice plaintive, almost without resistance. I know, he replies but doesn't stop, continuing to kiss along my collarbone. Guilt and passion blend, and I surrender to this obsession, letting his hands slip under my towel. My body burns, heart pounding as if committing something utterly forbidden, yet so desired. Hyun. He whispers my name, and in that sound is so much emotion my breath catches. Then we melt into a passionate kiss, and the world disappears. It seems my whole existence focuses on feeling his skin, his hands, his lips, on how he cautiously yet insistently explores my body. I respond with equal fervor, as if I have long bottled up all these feelings. In that moment I forget everything, that he is my sister's fiancé, that our families are enemies, that my soul screamed in horror at this man. Only the fierce flash of passion remains, then washes over me in a wave of exhaustion and strange, sinful happiness. We freeze, breathing heavily. I feel him pull away, lying beside me, holding me close. Silence falls for several seconds, and I close my eyes, trying to comprehend what just happened. It was madness, my inner voice whispers. It must never happen again. But when I press against his chest, hearing his heartbeat, I realize we have crossed a line. And there's no turning back. On this thought, I drift into sleep.